That text message came through at 2:00 a.m. while I was on assignment in Seattle. Mom, finally did something about that house of yours. You're welcome. I stared at the glowing screen in the darkness of my hotel room. The house. My house in Alexandria, the 3-bedroom colonial I'd bought 2 years earlier. I'd chosen that property carefully 15 minutes from the federal courthouse, 20 from my office at the U.S. Marshal Service headquarters. Me. What do you mean did something about it? Mom, I sold it. You were never there anyway. Always traveling for that job of yours. The money will help your sister with her wedding. I sat up so fast I nearly dropped my phone. You sold my house. Mom? Don't be dramatic. We still have your power of attorney from when you were overseas. We used it. The place was just sitting empty. $850,000 cash. Your father and I split it with Rachel for her wedding expenses. You can thank us at the reunion next week. My hands were shaking. The power of attorney she mentioned dated back to my deployment in Afghanistan 6 years ago, long before I joined the Marshal Service, a document I'd completely forgotten to revoke when I returned stateside. Me, Mom, you need to stop the sale immediately. Mom, it's done. Closed yesterday. Stop being selfish. Family helps family. I immediately called my supervisor, Deputy Chief Marshal James Crawford. He answered on the third ring, his voice thick with sleep. Crawford Mitchell, this is the middle of the night. Me, sir, we have a problem. My family just sold my house in Alexandria. There was a pause. Crawford. Your house. The safe house. Me, yes, sir. Crawford. Jesus Christ, the one we've been using for witness protection, me, sir, for the Castellano case. Another pause, longer this time. Crawford. How long ago? Me, they closed yesterday. I just found out. Crawford. Who's in the house now? Me. According to the protection detail's last report, Angela Moretti and her 2 children. They're supposed to stay there another 3 weeks before relocation. Crawford. And your family sold a federal safe house to whom? Me. I don't know yet, sir. Crawford Mitchell, get back to D.C. immediately. I'm activating the emergency response team. We need to relocate the Morettis and figure out what the hell just happened. I caught the first flight out of Seattle. When I landed at Reagan National at 10:00 a.m., there were 17 new messages from my mother, all variations of, "Why are you being so dramatic? You're ruining Rachel's wedding." I ignored every one of them and drove straight to my office at the U.S. Marshal Service headquarters in Arlington. Deputy Chief Crawford was waiting in the secure conference room with 3 other senior marshals and our legal counsel. Crawford Mitchell. He gestured to a chair. Sit. Tell us everything. I explained the power of attorney, how my parents still had access to it, and how they'd sold the house without my knowledge or consent. As I spoke, I watched their expressions shift from concern to disbelief, then to outright anger. Patricia Williams, our legal counsel, leaned forward, her tone sharp and deliberate. Williams. Let me make sure I understand. Your parents sold a property that's been registered as a federal safe house for the past 18 months, a property currently housing a protected witness and her family in the Castellano organized crime case, with an active protection detail. And they did this without notifying anyone. Me, yes, ma'am. Williams, who bought the house? Me, I don't know yet. My mother mentioned $850,000 in cash, which is well below market value for that property. Crawford's jaw tightened. Crawford. An $850,000 cash sale for a house worth at least $1. $8 million. That's either gross incompetence or something much worse. Williams turned her laptop toward her fingers, flying across the keys. Williams. I'm checking the property records now. The sale went through a company called Riverside Holdings LLC. Does that name mean anything to you? Me, no, ma'am. She frowned and kept typing. Williams Riverside Holdings is a shell company registered in Delaware. Ownership is masked through several layers of entities. Mitchell. This wasn't a normal real estate transaction. The room seemed to freeze. Me. You're saying someone targeted that specific property? I asked quietly. Williams. I'm saying someone paid cash far below market value for a house currently sheltering a witness against the Castellano crime family. That's not a coincidence. Crawford stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Crawford. We need to move the Morettis immediately. Mitchell. You're with me. Williams, start digging into Riverside Holdings. I want names, who owns it and how they found out about that house. We arrived at the Alexandria property with a full tactical team. Marshals Rodriguez and Chin, the protection detail, met us at the front door, both looking startled. Rodriguez, sir, what's going on? We weren't notified of any schedule changes. Crawford. The house was sold, he said flatly, without authorization. We're evacuating the witnesses now. Rodriguez's hand instinctively went to his weapon. Rodriguez sold. How me family issues, I said quietly. Is Mrs. Moretti inside with both kids? Rodriguez. They're having lunch. We moved quickly inside. Angela Moretti looked up from the kitchen table where she sat with her 8-year-old daughter and 6-year-old son. Her face drained of color the moment she saw the number of marshals entering. Angela, what happened? Did they find us, Crawford? No, ma'am, he said firmly, but we're relocating you as a precaution. You have 10 minutes to pack essentials. Marshal Rodriguez will assist you. Angela stood shakily. But you said we'd be safe here. You said I know what we said, Mrs. Moretti, and I'm sorry, I replied. There's been a complication with the property. We're taking you somewhere more secure. As Rodriguez helped Angela gather their things, Crawford turned to me. Crawford. Your parents. Where are they now? Me family reunion. My uncle's farm in Pennsylvania. They're expecting me there tomorrow. Crawford, change of plans. We're going today. Bring a recorder, we need everything they say on record. We drove to Pennsylvania in a convoy of 3 unmarked vehicles, Crawford, myself, Marshal Williams from legal, and 4 tactical support agents. My uncle's farm sprawled over 50 acres of rolling hills just outside Harrisburg. By the time we arrived, the reunion was in full swing. Cars lined the gravel driveway. Children chased each other through the grass. The smell of barbecue drifted from the back patio. My mother stood by the grill laughing with my aunt's wine glass in hand, perfectly at ease. She spotted me and waved cheerfully until she noticed the group with me. All suits, all badges. Her smile faded. Mom, Sarah, what's going on? I crossed the lawn with Crawford beside me, his expression unreadable. My father stepped out of the house, beer in hand. My sister Rachel came around the corner with her fiancé close behind. Me, Mom, Dad. We need to talk about the house. Mom. Oh, for heaven's sake, are you still upset about that? Honestly, we did you a favor. Me. That house was a federal safe house, I said sharply. It was being used by the U.S. Marshals Service to protect a witness and her children in an ongoing organized crime investigation. The laughter from the patio stopped cold. My mother's face went pale. Mom, what me? The house in Alexandria. The one you sold without my permission. It wasn't just my house. It was registered federal property under the Witness Protection Program. My father lowered his beer slowly, disbelief in his eyes. Dad, that's impossible. The man we dealt with said you worked in office administration. Me. I'm a deputy U.S. Marshal, I said evenly. I have been for 4 years. That house was chosen for its location and security features. It's been sheltering a protected witness for 18 months. Crawford stepped forward, raising his badge. Crawford, Deputy Chief Marshal James Crawford, Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell. You've sold federal property without authorization. More importantly, you may have compromised an active witness protection operation. My mother instinctively gripped my father's arm. Mom. We didn't know. Sarah, you never told us. Me, I couldn't tell you. I said, keeping my voice steady. Operational security means I'm not allowed to discuss active cases or safe house locations with anyone outside the service. But you should have asked me before selling my property. Dad, we had power of attorney. Me. That power of attorney was for emergencies during my military deployment 6 years ago, I countered. It was never intended to give you authority to sell my house. Rachel stepped between us, her voice rising. Rachel, Sarah. Mom and Dad were just trying to help. They got me $400,000 for my wedding. Surely you can't be upset me. Your wedding money came from the illegal sale of federal property, I said coldly. That money will be seized as proceeds from a crime. Dad, crime. His voice grew loud, defensive. Now wait just a damn minute. We didn't commit any crime. We sold your house, the one you never used. You're always traveling, always too busy for family. What were we supposed to think, me? You were supposed to think before selling someone else's property without their permission. I said, my tone sharp. And selling federal property makes it far worse. Marshal Williams stepped forward, calm but firm. Williams, Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, I'm with the Legal Counsel's Office of the U.S. Marshal Service. The house you sold was legally owned by your daughter but registered as federal property used for witness protection. Selling that property without authorization constitutes a violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 1512, tampering with a witness. Williams. Additionally, because the sale was conducted using fraudulent authority, Mom. We weren't being fraudulent, she cried, voice trembling. Williams. You used a power of attorney you knew was outdated and no longer valid. She continued calmly. And the fact that you sold the property for far below market value to a shell company raises serious questions. Dad, shell company. He frowned, confused. We sold it to a nice couple through a real estate agent. They paid cash $850,000. Me. The buyers used a shell company called Riverside Holdings. Do you know who they actually were? Dad, some investors. The agent said they wanted it as a rental property. Me, and an $850,000 cash offer for a house worth nearly $1.8 million didn't seem suspicious to you. Mom, we're not real estate experts. She shot back, her voice rising. The agent said it was a fair price for a quick cash sale. Crawford's phone buzzed. He glanced down and his expression hardened. Crawford Mitchell. I need to speak with you privately. We stepped away from the others. Crawford turned his phone toward me. On the screen was a photo of two men. One I didn't recognize. The other I did. Vincent Castellano Jr., the son of the mob boss whose organization Angela Moretti was testifying against. Crawford, Riverside Holdings, he said quietly. A shell company owned by the Castellano family. He met my eyes. Crawford. They bought your house. They knew it was a safe house. My blood went cold. Me. How, Crawford? We're still investigating. But they paid cash below market value, probably to make the sale too tempting to question. Your parents' greed made them easy targets. I turned back toward my family. They stood in a tight cluster now. Mom, Dad, Rachel, and her fiancé, my uncle, 3 aunts, 2 cousins, all staring at me. Their expressions caught somewhere between fear and disbelief. Me. Who approached you about selling the house, Mom? What? She blinked, confused. The real estate agent. Linda. Something. She said she already had buyers ready. Me. You didn't list the house. How did she even know you had access to it? My parents exchanged a nervous glance. Mom, I might have mentioned it at the country club, she said hesitantly. I was talking about Rachel's wedding expenses and someone suggested we liquidate some assets. I mentioned you had that house you never used. Crawford closed his eyes briefly, the muscle in his jaw tightening. Crawford, Mrs. Mitchell, you discussed your daughter's property, federal property, at a country club. In front of how many people, Mom, I don't know. It was just conversation, just friends. Crawford. Those friends told someone. That someone told the Castellanos. And the Castellanos sent a fake agent to convince you to sell them the safe house. My father's face had gone gray. Dad, you're saying we helped the mob Williams unknowingly. Yes, she said evenly. But you sold them direct access to a protected witness. Rachel grabbed my arm. Rachel, Sarah, we didn't know. You have to believe us. We would never... Me. You would never ask before making major decisions about my property, I said, pulling away from her grip. You would never respect that I might have reasons for privacy. You would never consider that my work might actually be more important than you assumed. I took a breath, the anger steady now. Me? That's not fair, is it? You took my wedding money, didn't you? $400,000 from the sale for what, a bigger venue? A fancier dress. Rachel's cheeks flamed. Rachel, Mom and Dad offered. They said you owed us. You're never around. Never part of family things. They said this was your contribution. Me? My contribution, I said quietly, was buying a house that ended up saving 3 lives. Angela Moretti and her 2 children are alive because they were in that safe house instead of their apartment when the Castellanos sent men to kill them. That was my contribution to something that actually mattered. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. The laughter and music from the backyard drifted faintly across the lawn, the children still playing blissfully unaware of what was unraveling just a few yards away. Crawford's phone buzzed again. He stepped aside, answered, spoke briefly, then hung up. Crawford. The Morettis are secure at a new location. The Alexandria house is being swept for surveillance devices. We've obtained the warrant. He nodded to the tactical agents. 2 stepped forward. Crawford, Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, we have a federal warrant to seize all proceeds from the sale of the Alexandria property. That includes bank accounts, cash, and any assets purchased with those funds. My mother stumbled backward, her voice breaking. Mom. See. You can't do this. That's our money, Williams. It's proceeds from the illegal sale of federal property, she said firmly. Additionally, you're both being charged with violations of 18 U.S.C. Section 1512 witness tampering and 18 U.S.C. Section 641 theft of government property. You'll need to come with us for formal processing. Dad, Sarah. He turned toward me, his face pale and desperate. Sarah, stop this. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them we didn't mean any harm. I met his eyes for a long, heavy moment. Me, Dad, you sold a safe house to the mob. Whether you meant harm or not, you endangered 3 lives. I can't stop this, and I wouldn't stop it even if I could. Mom, we're your parents. Me and Angela Moretti is a mother with 2 children who watched her husband murdered by the Castellanos. Your actions almost got her killed too. So no, I'm not stopping this. They said nothing more as the marshals moved in. My parents were taken into custody that evening. Rachel's bank accounts were frozen. The $400,000 wedding fund was seized as evidence. Her fiancé left 2 days later, saying he needed time to think. The investigation into Riverside Holdings led to the arrest of 3 Castellano associates and uncovered a web of corrupt real estate agents being used to track federal properties. The Castellano organization had been systematically identifying and targeting safe houses along the eastern seaboard. My parents' carelessness had given them exactly what they wanted. Angela Moretti and her children were relocated to a secure facility out of state. She later testified successfully against Vincent Castellano Sr., who is now serving life in federal prison. His son, Vincent Jr., received 20 years for witness tampering and related charges. My parents went to trial 6 months later. They were convicted of witness tampering and theft of government property. Dad received 4 years in federal prison. Mom got 3 years plus 2 years of supervised release. The judge's words were blunt. Ignorance was no excuse when their actions had nearly cost 3 innocent lives. Rachel lost everything: her wedding fund, her venue deposit, her fiancé, and her reputation. Last I heard, she'd moved to Oregon to live with our aunt. I visited my parents once before they were transferred to their respective facilities. They sat across from me in the Federal Holding Center, both wearing orange jumpsuits, both looking 10 years older than they had at the reunion. "Mom, Sarah," she whispered, voice trembling, "please, can't you do something? Talk to someone? Your father's health." "Me, Mom. I'm a deputy marshal. I can't interfere with a federal prosecution, you know that." "Mom, but we're family. Me, family respects boundaries. Family asks permission. Family doesn't sell each other's houses to mobsters." My father's hands shook on the table. "Dad, we didn't know they were mobsters. We didn't know it was a safe house. We didn't know any of it because you never told us what you really do." "Me, I couldn't tell you. And clearly, I was right not to trust you with sensitive information. Look what you did with something as simple as property ownership." "Mom, so this is our punishment, prison, because we tried to help our daughter with her wedding." "Me, you tried to help yourselves to money that wasn't yours," I said evenly. "Angela Moretti is alive because we got to her in time. If the Castellanos had reached her first, if she and her children had been killed, you'd be facing murder charges. 4 years in prison is getting off light." My father's face crumpled. "Dad, when we get out, will you?" "Me. Will you what?" I interrupted softly. "Forgive you. Welcome you back to family dinners. Pretend this never happened, Dad. We're your parents." "Sarah." "Me?" "Yes," I said quietly. "You are my parents. And now you're also federal inmates who compromised a witness protection case because you were too selfish and too careless to ask a single question before selling my house." I stood up. "Me, I hope you use your time in prison to think about consequences. Real consequences. Not just what happens to you, but what could have happened to 3 innocent people because of your choices." 2 years later, I received a letter from my mother. She'd been transferred to a minimum security facility in West Virginia. The letter ran 8 pages: apologies, explanations, justifications. She missed me. She wanted to make things right. She said she'd learned her lesson. I read it once, then filed it away with the case documents. Later that day, Deputy Chief Crawford stopped by my office. "Crawford, heard your mother reached out. She wants reconciliation. You going to give it to her?" I thought about Angela Moretti, who'd sent me a Christmas card the year before, a photo of her kids smiling in front of a tree. They were alive. They were safe. Because I'd moved fast enough to get them out of that house. "Me. No," I said quietly. "I'm not. Crawford family's important, Mitchell. Me. So is doing your job right. So is protecting people who can't protect themselves. So is maintaining boundaries with people who've proven they can't be trusted." Crawford nodded slowly. "Crawford, fair enough. For what it's worth, you handled that situation with more professionalism than I would have." "Me. It wasn't personal, sir." "Crawford. Wasn't it?" I met his gaze. "Me. It was absolutely personal. But that doesn't change the fact that they broke federal law and endangered federal witnesses. Personal feelings don't override duty." "Crawford. No," he said. "They don't. My parents were released from federal prison 18 months ago. Mom served her full sentence. Dad got out 2 months early for good behavior. They moved to Florida, far from the whispers and judgment of their Pennsylvania community. They've written to me occasionally, birthday cards, holiday emails. Each one asks for a chance to talk, to explain, to rebuild. I haven't answered any of them. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday enough time will pass for me to separate who they were from what they did. Maybe someday I'll sit across from them without seeing Angela Moretti's terrified face as we rushed her and her children out of that house. But not today. Today I have a job to do, witnesses to protect, cases to build, lives that depend on the U.S. Marshal Service to keep them safe from the people who want them dead. And I can't do that job if I waste energy on family members who valued $850,000 more than they valued respect for me for my work or for the lives of 3 strangers they'd never met. So I keep working. I keep protecting witnesses. I keep upholding the standards my parents' actions nearly destroyed. And if that makes me cold, if that makes me unforgiving, if that makes me a bad daughter, I can live with that. Because Angela Moretti's children are alive. That matters more than my parents' forgiveness. It always will.